Hi team, it's Sam here from Ghetto Grafting Garage with the Ghettos of Grafting and making these things in my garage. Today is something a bit different just because need a rest from the VTech, but a guy hit me up on Facebook to make him a roof rack. I've made about 2 or 3 of these now and this one is by far the best. So this is made for the Classic Mini. I also went through how I made the brackets to hold the roof rack down. And what I ended up using was I bought 2 lengths of stainless steel tube, 5.5 meters, so 11 meters in total. I used 9 slats of wood, which are 60 wide, 1.2 centimeters thick, and 1.2 long, 60 wide, 1.2 thick, and then these are just zinc coated bolts to hold down each piece of wood. And then 2 slices of stainless steel plate, and then obviously the rubber feet, and then a little bit of stainless steel flat plate for the brackets. Each one has a piece of threaded rod with 3 stainless steel bolts, nuts, and that's all you need. And then when it comes to tools, all I used was I needed a welder to obviously weld it all together. I needed a vise. You don't need a vise, but I used a vise just to get the right angles here, and then a tube bender as well to get all the radiuses. And then the last thing was I did use a tube notcher, but a lot of people, you can just do it by hand. It's a little bit rougher, it takes a little bit longer, but you can definitely get the same results. So keep watching the video and you'll see me put this all together from scratch. Alright, well here we go with the first tool that you'll need is a tube bender, which is obviously going to give you the 4 bends which you need. Yeah, this is kind of like a complete kit which I got, which has everything from pretty small to much larger round tube, also does square tube. So yeah, let's start off with that. I've got my my tube bender set up here. That's obviously the correct size for this tube, but what I've done is on my tube is that I've got 0 and I marked it all the way up to 30 centimeters down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the start of the bend at 0 and then I'm going to bend it to 90 degrees and then that's it. So when I go to make the roof rack, is that I'll know from where I need to start the bend at 0 and where that 90 degrees finishes, so then I can gauge how long I want it to be, if that makes sense, which it probably doesn't, but it will later on in the video. So yeah, let's start off with that. I've got my square here lined up with the 0 mark which I made. So for one, I've got the radius here of the bend, but also now I know how much material it's going to take from 0 to come all the way around, and it finishes at about here. So that's taking about 16.5 centimeters of material to do my bend. So I know 16.5 to do that right angle, but then also when I go to chop it, I'm probably going to bring it down to that's the height of the roof rack, so that'll probably be even towards the 28 centimeter mark. So what I'm going to do is to get the length of it, which the wood comes in I think 1.2 meter lengths. So I don't do woodwork, I don't have woodworking tools, so I'm just going to buy it in the length that they come in and make the roof rack to suit. So yeah, let's measure it all up and see how long the pipe needs to be. I've got it on a mad bird's eye because that's the only angle I could get of this. So luckily I've got a saloon here. So I've got my markings here and here. This is 1.2 meters wide, so that's going to be the length of the wood. So I've got here I'm pretty much going to chop it here, which brings me up to my 24 centimeter from my 0 mark. So I'm going to cut it there. So now what I need to do is get my correct length. So if I want to have my 1200 in width, it's going to take me, so if I take off, it's 10 from there, so if I minus my 100, obviously for the other side times 2, which is going to take me down to 1 meter in length from here to the other side where I want to start my bends, and then I want to plus my 240, which is going to be times 2 for both sides, which is going to give me 480, so 1,480 is going to be the length of my my 2 braces on this side and on the other side. Got my my 2 bent pieces here. Lines up pretty good with my lines there. So next up, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do the brace, which is going to come across between the 2 stand-ups here, and I'm also going to do 2 pieces which come down here. Then the bracket is going to come from the gutter here. That's going to come over and mount to this bottom piece of tube. Well, next up, I need to notch the end of the tube here because it needs to mate up with the surface of the of that main runner there. So I'm going to use this tube cutter. You can definitely do it by hand. I'm just using the tube cutter because I was having a yarn with my dad one day saying I was going to buy one, and then he had one sitting around that that he had built quite a few years ago for a lot of money, but now you can get these things cheap as chips. So yeah, all it is it's a that's a hole cut saw. It says it's for stainless steel as well. We'll see how many of these teeth break off because I've done this before. And yeah, and then it's going to notch the end of that tube. So got a drill on the end, and yeah, it's up next. So I've got 2 magnets holding it on there with just some straps because obviously the magnet will not stick to the stainless steel. So what I'm going to do next is I've got it pretty much the right width that I kind of want it. So I'm just going to measure the width, and then I'm going to weld in 3 bars across, and that's going to be the brace to put the wood slats on top. So let's get on to that. Alright, well, my whole saw blade has got like 1 good tooth left. Maybe 2. That 3rd one's a bit shagged, but man, 2 more cuts. Come on. Well, next up I have to put in the bars which are going to run across the roof rack. So what I've done is I've got my right angle magnets here. They don't stick to the stainless again. So what I've done is I've just chucked a couple of zip ties in here, which is holding it tight to my right angles. So I've got 1, 2, 3 bars at the back. I'm also running 1 bar at the front and the back so stuff doesn't come off the roof rack. And then the way that I'm going to square this up is just to get my square, which is the reason that I'm on the floors, because I don't have enough space on my table. So I'm just going to square it up on the ground here, tack it up, I'll chuck it back up on the table. So I've got it all welded up and everything. I've just got to still put a tab across here, which is going to run the length. Same thing on the other side, because the pieces of wood are going to bolt in under here for the slats of wood. I've got the feet on here. So next up, what I've got to do is I've got to make something that's going to hold the top of the roof rack here, and it's going to come in and come under the lip here. And what I'm going to do is I just got a piece of 8mm threaded stainless steel rod, and I'm going to use that to go between the 2, and then as I turn the piece of rod, it's going to pull the 2 together. I've got my my two paper templates here. So next up I need to put it onto my piece of stainless. So I've made my bracket here. I've got a hole in the top, so that one there's going to come in, and that one's going to come in under the gutter. The next one I've got a hole in this one as well, and this one here is going to come up, and it's going to go between the pipe in the middle is going to go between my bracket here. So I'm just going to grab a pair of pliers. I'm just going to slowly bend it until I get it to sit around that pipe there, and then add in a piece of threaded rod between the two. And then as the piece of thread gets tightened up, what it's going to do is it's going to pull this top bracket down, and it's going to hold the roof rack tight to the side of the body. What I've done is so I've got on the top piece here is I've welded on a captive nut onto there, and then on this bottom bracket here is I had a piece of threaded rod and I actually just welded a nut on there, and then what I've done is I've welded the nut on here. So what it's done here is that when I turn this nut here, as it's pulling on the captive nut on this side of the bracket, and it's pulling the two together. So obviously I've now got one for each. Alright, so next up is I've just cut a length of stainless steel here. So I'm going to weld that across here on the roof rack, and then same thing on the other side. And then I'm going to get in my slats of wood from here. And then I've just got a big a cap bolt. And so I'm going to drill through my piece of wood, through my piece of stainless steel, which is going to run the length, then with a spring washer and a nut, and then that'll be the roof rack done. So we're getting close. And there it is, all mocked up on the car. Added a little bit of foam on the bracket here just to make sure it doesn't scratch anything up. Man, this is definitely the best looking roof rack I've made. I'm real happy with that. Hopefully I get some photos later on the guy's car, and I'll chuck those up on Instagram out in the sun. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you like it enough to subscribe. I'm going to be doing heaps of random little small projects like this as well, so keep an eye out.